Hello everyone and welcome to Makeover Monday 2021 week 23 Watch Me Viz. Thanks for attending. If somebody could please let me know if you can hear me okay, that'd be great. Last week there was an issue with the sound quality, so if you could let me know, I'd appreciate it. But this week we're looking at the number of people in the US, or the percentage of people in the US that have never been married, and how that's been on the rise between 2006 and 2016. So let's go ahead and get started. This is the original visualization. It's by the US Census, and it just shows pretty simply 2006 versus 2016 by gender. And yeah, you can clearly see that the number of unmarried people is on the rise. Now, in this particular example, let's just look at 2006 25 to 29-year-olds. You can see it's comparing men to women. Okay, so you can see there's more, and generally, I think everywhere, there's more unmarried men than women. The problem with this visualization, though, is it makes it a bit difficult to compare women between the 2 years. So for example, if I want to compare just the women for 25 to 29, I would need to compare those two red bars, and kind of the blue bar in the middle sort of gets in the way. So this answers the question comparing men to women, but it doesn't answer the question as easily of comparing within the same gender across the 2 years. So that's something that I might look at a bit differently. I don't understand the purple background and the cartoony thing on the upper left. I think that's pretty unnecessary. The grid lines are fine. The layout, the vertical bar charts with the years, all that. I think all that's perfectly fine. I do like also how they use gender neutral colors for women and men. There's no need to use pink and blue or something like that, which can be very stereotypical. The data itself, I'm just going to scroll down here. You can see we have the gender, the age range, the year, and the percentage that have never been married. So very simple data set. In the article itself, I didn't really end up reading through the whole thing because I found it difficult to sort of find so this is a similar chart, and I found it difficult. Oh, here we go. So this is an example of where you can compare the women between 2006 and the women of 2016. So this chart flips it the other way, which makes comparing within the gender quite a bit simpler. But what I was trying to find in this article is information about, so here we've got race, and, so there is a lot more information, but I couldn't really find a whole lot, or I didn't really bother spending the time trying to read through all of this text to find any particular insights. Because this section here talks about it across race, but the data set we have isn't by race. So yeah. Anyway, so I didn't really find the article itself pretty all that useful. So I'm going to go ahead and consider the original visualization and how can I make that better. So let's get started. So in Tableau, I've already gone ahead and connected to the data set. And one thing you'll notice immediately, hopefully, is that, let me turn on my little, wrong button. Sorry, I hit the wrong button on my screen. I have here we go. So let's see. So I want to do highlight cursor. Okay, so right here, hopefully you can see that cursor on my screen. We can see the year field is green, meaning it's continuous. So Tableau read that in automatically. So there's a couple things you can do to make this discrete years. Well, first off, I could just right-click on it and convert it to. Let me get rid of this cursor highlighter now. You could just right-click on it. Right-click on it. Sorry, it's acting a bit weird. Let me just hit the little caret and convert it to discrete, and that'll, just put the field there, which is fine. The other thing you could do is, let me undo to put it back to continuous, is I can click on that field and change it to a date. And now when I put year on the view, Tableau automatically changes it to a date field. So in this case, a date's not really necessary because it's only showing 2 dates anyway. So I'm going to actually just leave it as a number. as a whole number, and I'm going to make it discrete. Okay, so I'm going to start by going back and just trying to rebuild the original chart. So I know I have the percentage here, and I've got the age range, and I have the year. So let's see, does it go this way? So no, it needs, yeah, it goes that way, 2006, 2016, and then we have the gender next to, see, gender would be, yeah, here. So now we can see, let's see, and the women should be to the left of the men. And now we could put the gender onto color. And we had, this gives us the same view that we had in this visualization. So we've got the women next to the men, I've got the women next to the men, the year, and the age range. So, you know, this is hopefully seeing it on a bigger screen like this helps you see how it's even more difficult to create or to understand. But if I put the gender to the left of the year, now we can actually start seeing something a bit more useful. So we can see the women have increased by that percentage, the men have increased by that percentage. And I'm just going to go ahead and turn the labels on, and we see these percentages, but they're all in kind of a weird number format, or they're not in percentage format. So I'm going to go on to my never married field and go to default properties and set the default number format to a percentage to 1 decimal and hit OK. And we get something like that. So we can see the change across the 2 years. Now, maybe one other thing I could do, so this is just the, I don't know, what do I want to call this one? I'll just call it bar chart because I can't think of another name off the top of my head. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually change this to be a table calculation. And I want to look at the difference from across the pane. So for each age range and gender, compute the difference from the years. So now we can see we've got a 14% change in the women. So if I go here, you can see I've got a 14.1% change. So this would be my my change, 2006 to 2016. But we also have this kind of blank space everywhere. So I'm going to take the year field and move it to the detail shelf. And if I put my labels, can I put my labels at the top? Let's see. Oh, okay, so that didn't work. So the labels aren't on the top because these are, because I think if I go back here and if I just hide 2006, then my labels will stay at the top. So what's happened here, if I drag year onto the detail shelf, Tableau is actually kind of piling the marks on top of each other, which is why I can't get the label to go up to the top. Now I think I can just manually drag the label up at the top, but I don't want to have to do that every time. So that's kind of a pain. So what I would do is I'm going to just right click on 2016 and choose hide. And now I can move the year field down to the detail shelf and we're good to go. Okay, so let's set that to entire view. And now we can see the change between men and women. So before 25 to 29-year-olds, the number of women that are unmarried has increased by a higher percentage than the men. And other than that, so then it's kind of the other way around for 30 to 34, etc. So, and I might look at this, yeah, so I find this a bit easier to look at when the data is turned kind of sideways like this. I don't know, I just find it a bit easier. I might then rotate the label, and I'm going to hide the header. And if I format my label, maybe I'll make it a nice big font, maybe make it bold, something like that. And then I would probably also drag it over a bit to give it a bit more breathing room. So now I can see for 25 to 29-year-olds the difference in men and the difference in women. So yeah, so that's okay. Again, nothing particularly great. I'm going to go ahead and set my colors for my gender. And let's see what colors I could use. So I'm going to use some of my Makeover Monday colors maybe. So or what's another color palette that I have here that might be useful? Maybe I'll try the orange and aqua. So let's maybe make the women a light green and the men maybe a light orange. Okay, so that looks okay. That's not too bad. Maybe I'll make them a bit darker though. So orange aqua, make the women maybe that, and the men maybe something like that. Anyway, you could choose any two colors you want, but these two complement each other, so that's why I'm using those. All right, so yeah, again, nothing particularly interesting. So what's some other ways we can look at this data then? So let me duplicate this sheet again. And maybe I'll make these a line so I can then look at the difference between the 2 years. Let me turn the labels off. And if I now put the gender on, move the gender to detail, I can see for 25 to 29-year-olds, they each have this kind of increase. And what's interesting about this one is that you see kind of a general leaning from kind of, you can see they're really sharp at 25 to 29-year-olds. The slope gets less at 30 to 34, and then it kind of continues to rotate across the view. Now that probably would make more sense because you're going to have fewer and fewer people the older they get. I would assume you're going to have fewer and fewer people that have never been married. Now, of course, I'm making a gross assumption there, but I think that's a relatively safe assumption. Okay, so then if I were going to clean this up, I might put on my mark labels and just do the line ends and just label the end of the line, something like that. So that would give us kind of the most recent percentages. So this would be like a slope graph. Now, one thing I wouldn't do is I wouldn't put age range onto the detail as well, because now I just get too many things on there. I like this one split up by the different ages. Okay, so let's duplicate this one, and I'm going to switch them back to bars. And so now I'm going to maybe turn off my stack marks, and I'm going to also put gender on size. So now this is allowing me to compare the men to the women for each year. Not very interesting. So so this is, let's see, men versus women, bar in bar. And then let's duplicate that. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap. So I'm going to take the gender and the year fields and swap those. And then I want the year on size as well. Okay, so we get something like that. And this is maybe a bit more interesting, so we can see it's the same view as this bar chart, except I just have one bar inside of the other. So we can see that across all of these age groups, the percentage of unmarried or never married, sorry, has increased from 2006 to 2016 across all ages and genders. So I want to call this year over year chain, year over year. Let's see, let's call this 2006 to 2016 bar in bar. Okay, what are some other things we could do here then? So I'm going to create a new sheet, and I'm thinking of maybe a scatter plot, because sometimes scatter plots will help us show relationships, but I only have one measure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create two calculated fields, one for 2006. And let's see, so what I want to do here is I'm going to do integer year equals 2006 times the never married. So this is going to say if the year is 2006, then it's going to return a true or a t. When I put an integer around that, it's going to turn the true into a 1 and the 0 and the false into a 0. Multiply that by the never married, and now we have the percentage for 2006. I'm going to then duplicate that, and let's edit that, and 2016, and I'm going to do the same thing here. And hit OK. And if I'm going to do this as a scatter plot, this probably isn't going to work, but one on the columns, one on the rows. Maybe I'll put gender on color and age range on detail. And then it might be interesting, so if I put year on detail as well, yeah, that's not very useful. So I'm going to change it to a line, and let's put year on path. That looks kind of funky, doesn't it? So what if I make this, I wonder what this is going to look like as an area chart. Anyway, okay, so that's not very useful. So I would probably go back. Yeah. Okay, so this is our scatter plot, and then not useful. And maybe I'll mark that one red because I don't want to use that. Okay, so Matthews Michael Matthews maybe? Matthews Michael, can we do a dumbbell chart? Yeah, so let's see. So I want to compare, I want to have the never married, and I want to have it maybe by, let's put gender onto detail again, make those circles. And let's put the age range here. And we can maybe put the year here. And if I were going to make this a dumbbell chart, I would just duplicate that field and make the second one a line and put the gender on path. Make it a dual axis and synchronize and move those marks to the back. And then hide that header. Okay, so this would give me a dumbbell chart that's comparing the men to the women. Okay, so this is dumbbell men versus women. And I'm going to duplicate that, and I'm going to call this dumbbell 1006 versus 2016. So in this case, I'm going to swap around the year field and my gender field. So I can highlight both of them. Let's see, I think I can do all three of them. No. And I'm going to swap those. And then here I need to put year onto color. And we get like that. So now we're looking at the men, the change in the men versus the women. So this one is definitely easier to understand than this one compares the genders. Let me call this dumbbell. If I spell that right? Men versus women. And this one would be a dumbbell. Do you spell dumbbell with one L? Is that right? Well, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so yeah, and then maybe I could even make let's pick some colors for the years. So maybe we'll pick orange and blue, something like that. Okay, so this one looks pretty good. Again, if I think I did this last week as well. I could, oh, the same thing happened last week. And everybody, whoever was watching last week, it crashed on me then too. So lesson learned, make sure that you save along the way. Maybe somebody from Tableau watches these and they can see how it keeps crashing on me every week. That would be useful. And I'm not going to bother sending the error report because I never hear back from them. Okay, all right, so we didn't really lose much. So I better go ahead and save. And let's see, Makeover Monday, 2021, week 23. Never married is on the rise. I think, let me see what the is on the rise. Maybe I'll just tell you, never married is on the rise. Okay, let me save that in case it crashes again. Now watch it crash while I'm trying to save. Okay, so I'm going to go back to pick my colors. Let's see, what did I use? Watch me viz. I used red and blue, or no, orange I think I used. I like those two colors together. Okay, so that's our, I'm going to save again. And this is when it crashed. Let's see what happens this time. I'm going to duplicate the sheet once it's finished saving. Okay, it didn't crash that time. So if I make the lines thicker, you can see it becomes kind of like a peas in the pod chart. I still don't really know what to call this kind of chart, but so let me make these circles a bit smaller. Maybe put borders around them. And maybe make this like a lighter gray. Something like that. So this would be the same view as the dumbbell, but just as you know, peas in a pod, whatever. Peas in a pod. Okay, so I've got one more idea that I think might work as well. So let me put, let's see, so it's going to be similar to this visualization. Okay, let me just duplicate this sheet. And I'm going to call this bar chart with change. Now this particular view, what I want to do is I want to show these two bars, but I also want to show a third bar that shows the change. I do have a video on my channel for how to create this type of chart, and I'll if I can remember to put a link to it, I will. So now we don't. Okay, so we're going to need to do this slightly differently, I believe. Okay, let me see if I can make this work. So first off, I'm going to flip the chart just because I find it a bit easier to look at. So now that I have that, I can put my 2016 as a dual axis, and I'm going to make all of the marks bars for now, and take measure names off of color. Okay, so what did that do? That didn't. Oh, you know what? I need to put measure names onto the rows. Okay, so now we've got the never married 2016. Let's see. Maybe I need to do it this way. Yeah, okay, this isn't going to work. So let me get rid of that. Let me just start over. Might be easier to kind of show you what I'm trying to do. So I've got the year, I've got the gender, and I've got the age range. Okay, so gender, age range. Said I have this one, age, range, gender. Okay, we can always move the fields around a bit. I don't want the year field on there, actually. I want to know the 2016 value, and I want to know the 2006 value. So I'm going to make those a dual axis, or sorry, combined axis, so that I get my measure names and measure values. And let's go ahead and put measure names onto color. And what I want to do now is I want to add a third bar that shows the difference between the two. So to do that, I'm going to just duplicate my 2016 value, and I'm going to make that a dual axis. And synchronize. And my measure value shelf, I'm going to make a bar. And then my other one, I'm going to make a Gantt bar. Okay, let me take measure names off of that one. And or I can leave it on there, it doesn't matter. And what I want to do here is I want to draw this bar. It should represent the length between the blue and the orange. So I need to create a new calculated field, and this would just be my change. So this is going to be 2006 minus 2016. And if I put that on the size shelf of that, you can see I now get that third bar going across there. Now I'm going to make this nice and thin to make it look a bit better. And then I'm going to go ahead and hide the header for those for that. So, okay, so, and then let me hide the header here. I don't need the copy field in my, yeah, so let me get rid of that in the tooltip. Okay, so now I've got 2006, 2016, and the change. Okay, and all three of these fields need to be a percentage. Let's make those a percentage to 1 decimal. Okay, so that looks good. I could also kind of flip these around. So that's men 2006 versus 2016. So this is doing the age and then the men and the women, whereas this one is doing it by gender first. So it really depends on which question you want to answer. Right, so let me go ahead and rotate. Let's see, how should we do this? Should we do it by gender by age, or by age by gender? I think I'll leave it this way, just to do something different. So I'm going to rotate that label and hide the field labels. And I'm going to make this one maybe 12 point, something like that. Okay, actually, this looks really blurry on my screen, so I'm going to change the font for the workbook. And let's make it something a bit more interesting. And I know these aren't going to show up when I publish it to Tableau Public, but I don't really care. Let's try Railway. Okay, that's good. And let's make them black by default. Okay, so the men field, let me format that, and let's make it bold. and I'm going to make it a bit wider so it's a bit easier to see. Now, I want my 25 to 29 field to be kind of in the middle here. So if I, basically I want it to line up with this orange bar. So if I format that and I set the alignment to center, okay, so that looks pretty good, right? But I actually want this 25 to 29 to be halfway between the, I think it might look, no, I guess that's okay. I think that's probably good enough. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Right. So what do we have now? So we have the measure names. Okay. We've got 2006, 2016. I'm going to also put the gender on detail and add that to color. And I'm going to switch these around. Okay, there we go. So now I can see all the men are one color, all the women are another color. And then let's go ahead and edit the colors here. So let's go back to, let's see, what color palette should I use here? Let's use something different. Don't want that one. I've got a lot of color palettes. Let's do got Bob Ross colors, equal measures. This shouldn't take so long. I need to just pick one and be done with it. Okay, let's do, yeah, let's just go back to the, I know that wasn't very interesting. So men 2006 through 2016, maybe I'll make that, let's make the 2006 maybe a light orange, and let's make the 2016 a dark orange. And we can make the copy, I think I'm just going to leave that like it is now because I'm just going to take that off the view. And maybe I'll make that the dark orange as well. And then that would be the light green, the dark green, and the dark green. Hit OK. Okay, so that gets us something like that. Let me look at it. Which one would you suggest? A separate bar chart like this for the change or including the change in the tooltip of the bar? Let's see here. I think I missed a couple of questions here. Can we make a bump chart? You could make a bump chart. I'm not sure how useful that would be in this case. We could try it though. And then the other question, what would you suggest? A separate bar chart like this for the change. Okay, you must mean this one here. Or including the change in the tooltip of the 2016 bar. You could do either. Doesn't really matter, whichever way you prefer to do it. And then how do I add all those palettes? So if you go to your My Tableau repository and you open up your preferences file, so I'll open it up here. Let me bring this over. You'll see it's just an XML workbook. Now when you first get Tableau, it's going to look like that with nothing in between the preferences. You can add in color palettes, all the color palettes you want. So I've got a pretty extensive list here. If you're going to do a sequential color palette, you use that. If you want to just do like discrete colors, you call it regular, etc. But there's lots of different color palettes you can add. But yeah, you do that inside the preferences.tps file. Okay, where were we here? Okay, so this is showing me the change. The change probably needs to be a different color. Let me switch this, and I'm going to make the change maybe a black. So let's make that. Let's make them both a black. Okay, there we go. So now I can see the difference between the two a bit better. Okay, now I would also, I don't know which year is which right now unless I include a legend, but what I'm going to do is on my measure values, I'm going to put year onto the labels. And then let's align those to the left. Why is that not allowing me to align them to the left? Well, that's quite annoying. Oh, there we go. What is going on here? Why is it giving me the labels twice? It's giving me, Oh, I put the wrong field on. That's why measure names has to be on the. There we go. But I don't need to repeat 2006 through 2016 here, so I'm going to highlight those bars, and then I'm going to go to mark label and never show, and then same thing down here for the other bars. Mark label, never show. Okay, so that looks a bit better. And then maybe on this one, I will show the change as a label, but I'm going to put the label to the left since it's a decrease. I think that looks pretty good. Yeah, that's all right. And then the label, maybe I'll make this bold, something like that. All right, so I'm going to, okay, so now I need to adjust my axis. Oh, I probably should save. I'm going to have it go from 0 to 0.75. And I better make sure I save. Okay, I'm going to change the default number format for my measure values to be, let's say 0 decimals. Okay, so now my axis at the bottom looks good. And I'm going to go to my tick marks, and I'm going to start them at fixed at 0, and I'm going to put them every 10%. It's fine. Yeah, that's okay. So it's spreading them out a bit. I'm then going to format the view. So I think, let's see what this looks like. So I'm going to reduce my row dividers so it's just between the men and the women. I don't need my column dividers. Okay, and then I'm going to maybe make my 0, let's see, my grid lines maybe dashed instead, but that's a bit too light. So maybe third gray. Okay, yeah, maybe something like that. And I can get rid of the title. All right, and then my 0 lines I don't need. Okay. But notice how my 0 is not lined up with my percentage there. So actually, what I could do is I want to make that look a bit nicer going down here on the side. So let me edit my axis again. And if I make it minus 0.01, what does that look like? Okay. Okay. So that's 0.5%. I'm just trying to get the 0 here at the bottom on the scale to line up nicely with the reference line. Okay, so let me save again. So I like this one. This might be my winner here. Come on. All right, so now when I hover over, I can see the gender, the age, and the change. Okay, so let me go to my tooltip. So I'm going to put the gender here. Okay. Okay, so what does that look like? 57.9%. Okay, and then this one, I need to do something similar. So this is going to be, this one I need to have my gender. And then this one I need to make 12 point. Okay. And I could even put years old. And again, I'm going to save. Okay, a separate part. Would a population pyramid work if you use the bar and bar method? It might. Okay, so let me just go back. So a population pyramid. So let's say we have the year and we have, let's see, this is going to be a bit tough though because we would have the age range like that. I probably need to switch those around. No. So if I did, actually no, I could do it like that. And then if I put 2006 here, and then 2016 as well. But the 2016, let's see, I'll have that one go to the right, and I'll have 2006 go to the left. And then move measure names to maybe color. So this would be maybe a population pyramid. I'm not sure if that's what you, Anthony, I'm not sure if that's what you mean by the population pyramid. Let's fit it standard. Let me just make these a bit bigger. So maybe something like that. I don't think it necessarily works, but that's how I would probably do it. So let's call that population pyramid. There we go. Okay, and I think the other question, could you edit the tooltip and make it look like a sentence? Yes, you could. I just chose not to. I think somebody else said, okay, a bump chart. So if we're going to do a bump chart, so let's see. So age range would be kind of like our ordered field, and then I might have. Yeah, see, I don't think a bump chart's going to work because we don't have enough. If I did, I would have to do something like this and maybe put never married here. No, there. And make it a circle. Yeah, I don't see how that would. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I mean, this shows sort of something over time. Yeah, so that's not very useful. Maybe put gender on color. No, that doesn't work either. Yeah, I mean, it's not really a bump chart though per se, so I don't think a bump chart would work in this case. I'll just call this one another bar chart. Okay, so and let me save one more time. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with the bar chart with the change, just because I kind of like the way it looks. Now, one of the things I don't like is you see now how the 25 to 29, it looks kind of weird that it's not between these two bars. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a calculated field that's going to help me spread those out a bit. So I'm going to call this age range. And I'm going to have my age range field. I'm going to do plus, quote, and then 2 lines, and then quote. Something like that. And that's going to give me an extra carriage return in here. And now if I format this to make it centered, you'll see it now lines up between those two fields. So I think that looks quite a bit better. So now you see how it's between 2006 and 2016. So the calculation again is just sticking it between yeah, it's just the extra carriage return is just giving me some more space down here to make it fit between these two bars. But I've now lost my tooltip, so I need to go back to my all marks card, and I need to put age range back onto detail. Okay, there we go. So that all works now. Good to go. All right, so if I go here, my tooltip, age range. Okay, good. Oh, but now my labels came back. So mark label never show. Mark label never show. Now I could have done that through a calculation. I just chose not to. And the reason I didn't label all of the bars is because I don't I think it would clutter up the visualization too much. Okay, so now we need to give this maybe a bit of a better title. I wonder if I put on subtotal. Let me put on totals, column subtotals. No, that's not what I want to do. Undo. Let's see. One thing I don't like is how close together the men and the women are there. So what if I put yeah, so that let's see if I put that one at the top. Okay, that might work. So and let's set the average field to be white. What color is white? It's okay. So all I was trying to do there was give it a bit of room between each of the charts. So I think now if I format the view, I can probably, what does it look like if I get rid of the row dividers? Or maybe I can leave them on, but maybe make them thick and white. Okay, but now this, I don't need that blank field anymore, I don't think. So I'm going to go to my all marks card and move the age range. Yeah, there we go. God, it's really annoying that it brings all these back again. Okay, and then I should be able to crank that over a bit. Okay. Yeah, the labels aren't quite visible yet, Arun. I agree. I'm going to fix that. Once I make the bars a bit thicker, they'll turn white automatically, and then you'll be able to see it. You'll be able to see it better. Okay, so I'm going to hide this card for my color. That way, when I put it into the dashboard, I won't actually see I won't see the color legend. So I'm going to save, and while that's saving, so I think I probably have this backwards because this should be a positive 13%, not a negative 13%. Because if I look at the original, it says never married is on the rise. This makes it look like it's down because I used a negative number. Okay, so I need to change that. So this is going to be so let me switch this to 2006. And then I need to switch my change field around. Okay, and then my label needs to go to the right. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the number format to be plus. Okay. So that's a 13% increase. Okay, yeah, so that's better. So let me save again. And let's see what else we have here. Okay. What does this say here? For young adults, the proportion of women aged 25 to 29 who never married increased. Okay. All right, let me stick this in a dashboard first. So let me add a new dashboard. And let me call this. And I'm going to maybe make it let's see if I can do 800 by 600 and delete the phone layout. And this one is the one I want to bring in. And let's make that fit entire view. Okay, so now it's too small. So I'm going to, oh, and I need to add some inner padding, maybe 20 pixels. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the height. Okay, so now I'm going to go back here and make these bars a bit wider. Okay, how's that look? Okay, but the labels are still a bit hard to see, so I could just manually change the labels to be white. The font, let's make it white. Okay, I think that's better for those two. It might make the orange a bit harder to see, but yeah, let me make these ever so slightly wider. Okay. Now the dashboard's really tall, which I don't like, but that's okay. Okay. So let's say something like for across all age groups, the percentage of never married. Okay, I'm not sure how that's going to look. That's okay. And then I'm going to put in a subtitle here. Oh no, I could just color the women the greenish color. Okay, and because I put women before men, I should switch these around and put the women at the top. There we go. Okay, so a diverging chart. So yeah, a diverging chart would be something like this, I believe, Matthews. That'd be kind of a side-by-side chart. Okay, and then let me show my caption. And this is my, so let's make that 8 point and light gray. And my data source is what it is. The US Census. Created by Andy Kriebel at VizWiz BI. Okay, so I don't like how this 2006 and 2016 are smaller, so let me just try, see what happens when I increase the font size for those. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I think, so it's 800 wide, 1,000 tall. I wish I didn't have to make it so tall, but I think I do. In order to be able to show the labels properly. And I like how things are spaced out a bit more now. So let me just go back, and if I take off the 0 field, what would happen here is that, you know, things are a bit more compact. But I don't like how the orange and the green and the orange line up right next to each other. So if I put the back in, see, I've got a bit more space between the two of them now. The age group is not there in the tooltip. Oh, thank you. I messed it up. So this needs to be age range. Thank you for that, Arun. And the same thing here. That went away because I took the age range, I moved the age range field from the detail to the rows. Okay. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Again, probably a bit too tall. Actually, I wonder if I could, let me go back here, and I'm going to set my labels to maybe be a smaller font. Let's make it like 8 point or even 7. No, 7 doesn't work. 7.5, 8. Okay, 8 point. Okay, so if I do that, and then if I make the whole view slightly shorter, I think you could still see the 2006 and 2016. That's probably okay. Oh, and I need to go here and show this header and get rid of the title. All right, and let's hide the header. And again, I better save. And let me just double check here. That's 8 point. That's right. Yeah, I think that's it. I like how this turned out. So let me put it in presentation mode to see what it looks like. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Hopefully not too many complaints, but yeah. So along the way here, so if I just put it back to slide sorter view, we've done 1, 2, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We've done 12 charts in, let's see, about 50 minutes, along with building the dashboard. And yeah, I appreciate all your questions. And I'm going to call it quits there for the day. And thank you for attending. And I will put some resources in the let's see, in the notes for the, or in the description for the video for where you can, if I remember, I'll put a video on how to build this particular chart, and then I will also put in a link to the preferences file that that I showed you has all of the colors in it. So yeah, thanks for attending. Everybody have a great day.